Today's devotion is titled Pillar Prayer of Protection, and we're on day 301, and we're on October the 28th. And today's morning rinse is Psalms 90 through 92. And the featured verses include one of my favorite chapters of the Bible. It's Psalm 91. So the featured verses include Psalm 91, 1 through 4. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. For it is he who delivers you from the snare of the trapper and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you may seek refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and bulwark. To read today's morning rinse and not highlight Psalm 91 would be like showing up to, say, a red carpet event barefoot. Psalm 91, like I said, is one of my favorite chapters, and it's a pillar prayer of protection for our Christian walk. I say this over and over again, that God does not promise that we will be void of hardship, and God does not promise that we will be void of attacks from the enemy, but he does promise that he will be with us through whatever we go through. And praying this prayer of protection can thwart the enemy's darts as they come our way. We must dwell in his shelter, though. His presence must be our living quarters, not just when we need help and, we go through life and never talk to God and never read the Bible and never, even have that be a part of our daily living. And then all of a sudden something comes up and then we run to God for help. His presence must be our living quarters. And if we dwell there, then while going through life's valleys, or his shadow, his protection, and his presence, they're going to cover us. And he will not force us to abide or rest in him. It's a choice. He doesn't require that. It's a choice. And that's the reason why we have free will. I mean, he gives us free will to serve him, and he doesn't force it. And when, we're talking about resting in him and having a choice, I'm not talking about choosing salvation, because by this time we already have been saved. I'm talking about seeking him after salvation with every single decision, every step that we make, every move that we are making in our lives, and trusting him to guide us along that journey. I'm talking about daily choosing his shelter and his protection instead of trying to do life on our own. And sometimes that means other people involved in our lives and helping us along the way as we're walking through life's challenging decisions. When our enemy sets traps along the pathway of life, God will help cover us. He covers us with his wings. He is the shield for our lives. He is the supernatural bulwark. He is our pillar of protection. And so is this prayer. I've read about military people who have a Bible in their pocket, and they all of a sudden they get shot at. I heard a story once where this soldier got shot at, and the bullet actually got into his chest where his pocket was, and they pulled out his Bible out of his pocket, and he opened it up, and the bullet had stopped right at Psalm 91. And I've heard stories about Psalm 91 being a shelter and a shield. And there was another story that I heard of a soldier who was out on the field, and he was quoting Psalm 91, and there were shots fired around him, and he got out protected and safe. And I'm not saying that if you are out and about and you're constantly praying Psalm 91, then you will continually be shielded from every single hardship there is in life. That's not what God is saying. That's not what I'm saying. But this is a way to protect us from some of those darts that might deem otherwise hitting us. It's kind of like that one episode that I had where I was talking about the shield that we hold, and Wonder Woman was holding the shield up over her eyes so that her eyes were even shielded from the darts that were coming our way or her way. It's like that. When the enemy sets traps along our pathway of life, God will cover us with his wings and he will protect us. He is the shield for our lives and he is our guide. He is the pillar of protection, and so is this prayer. So today's challenge to dig deeper is, I want you to write today's featured verses on an index card and put it somewhere for your family to see every single day. It's just four verses, but write those 4 verses in your home somewhere. And then I want you to type out on your working document, your declarations notebook that we have been working on. Remember, it's been about a week. We have talked about this declarations notebook. I want you to add the whole entire chapter of 91 in your declarations notebook. And that declarations notebook, if you haven't done it yet or you haven't listened to that episode, that devotion was the one that was titled I Declare That I Will Declare. And I think it was about a week ago or so, but that one was where I introduced the challenge for the declaration notebook. And so I want you to write out Psalm 91 in your working document. That means you're going to have to print off your document again, or at least a portion of it, and let the entire chapter be part of what you state out loud every day from this point forward. Or when you are feeling like you need it, this is just another way of declarating something out loud or declaring something out loud. I have it in my declarations notebook under the section that's titled protection. And that is your homework assignment, is to add Psalm 91 to your declarations notebook, reprint out your document and put it back in your notebook and declare that. And then also to put the first 4 verses on an index card, put it somewhere so that you are reminded, so that you can see what those verses mean. When my kids were younger, or my 2 youngest kids, I was homeschooling and I had them memorize this whole entire chapter, and it's amazing how that the memory of some of those verses come back. They come back when we say them out loud. So after you finish doing all of that and you are documenting and you're having your evening reflection, you're pulling out your journal and you're documenting how you're feeling, when you were reading Psalm 91 and when you were writing it out in your declarations notebook, was this a chapter that increased your faith? And as you were typing it out for your notebook and reading it out loud, could you physically sense an inner strength rising inside of you? And to think about Psalm 91. So write out any thoughts that you have about this chapter. What does it mean to you? Has there been any instances throughout your life that you have connected that instance to Psalm 91? I'd love to hear about them. I love hearing stories about how people interpret and have a life-changing experience with the Word of God. And Psalm 91 is one of those Psalms that I love, and I've heard stories a lot about this one specific chapter that I call pillar prayer of protection. I'm going to read it to you one more time. Psalm 91, 1-4. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. For it is he who delivers you from the snare of the trapper and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you may seek refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and bulwark. If you don't have my devotional, there's a link in the show notes. And until tomorrow, keep rinsing, reflecting, and repeating. God bless you.